I'd like to call to order the Fishers Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. If anyone is here for VA 25-23 or VA 25-24, which are the Verizon telecommunication towers, if you're here for that matter, those matters have been withdrawn. So if you're here for that, there's no need for you to be here. I didn't want anyone to be here unnecessarily. So if you are here for that, please feel free to leave. There's no reason for you to stay. If the petition is resubmitted, the petitioner will have to go through the notice process once again, and you will be notified of the next public hearing. So with that, thank you. At this time, I'd ask anyone who's able to join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Secretary, would you call the roll, please? Here.
Mr. Griswold.
Here.
Mr. Sylvia.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
And Mr. Lemon.
Here.
Thank you. We have four.
We have a quorum to conduct tonight's business. The first order of business is approval of our previous minutes. Members of the board, do we have any additions, modifications, revisions to the minutes from December 17th? All in favor to accept the minutes?
Aye.
Minutes are accepted. Our first public hearing is VA-25-25, address 12590 East 116th Street, Starbucks signage, consideration of a development standards variance from section 6.17.6.F2 of the city's Unified Development Ordinance to allow an individual ground sign along a perimeter street for a lot located within an integrated center development. Our petitioner is Misty Nye on behalf of Starbucks. Ms. Nye?
Yes.
Please approach the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So my name is Misty Nye, and I am representing Starbucks. They are asking that they be allowed to place a ground monument sign there in the frontage. The fabrication or construction of the signage will not be any larger than the existing. There are monuments on that same road. So it will also blend in with the property, look very nice. It won't stand out. I mean, it'll stand out, but it won't make, it'll be similar as the other existing signage in that area. There is another, if you'll see the pylon that's behind it, that is owned by a different property owner, so there's no place on that property or on that pylon to put a face for the Starbucks. And without a ground sign or a monument sign out there, it's very difficult for the customers to, notice that location, that interest. If you've been there before, you know that that building does sit back quite a ways from the road. So traveling west of it, you might miss the location, miss the entrance of it. And so a ground sign would really benefit not just Starbucks, but it would benefit, the community or the customers as well.
All right, are you completed now?
Huh?
Are you finished?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
We'll hear from members, from the staff, please.
Good evening. Grace Wiley, planner for the City of Fishers. The item before you today is a request for development standards variance from section 6.17.6.F.2 of the city's UDO to allow an individual ground sign along a perimeter street for a lot located within an integrated center development. This is for a newly built Starbucks store. 12590 East 116th Street is located at the northeast corner of Brooks School Road and 116th Street. The property is zoned C3 and regulated by the city's UDO. The surrounding area, as shown here, is zoned C3 as well. Across the street to the south is the Sandstone Village subdivision, which is zoned PUD-M. Fisher's 2040 Comprehensive Plan designates this site as neighborhood mixed use. The purpose of neighborhood mixed use is to provide neighborhood-sized services, amenities, and gathering spaces in a pedestrian-friendly environment. The proposed sign is shown here. It will be installed at a slope with a total exposed area of 11.7 square feet. Along 116th Street, the sign height will be 3 feet 4 inches tall. The proposed site plan is shown here to the right. The aerial of the property is from before the building was built, so the green rectangle indicates the approximate location of the now existing building. The petitioner is proposing a ground sign along East 116th Street, approximately 95 feet east of the existing integrated center sign, which is shown here on the left. A ground sign would be permitted without a variance on the interior of the shopping center to the north of the Starbucks store. City engineering staff have reviewed the proposed sign and have confirmed that it will not interfere with motorist sight triangles. One public comment was received from Doug Allman, who listed 11595 Brooks School Road as his business address and expressed opposition to the signage based on concerns of fairness. Please note, this is a newly built Starbucks. Staff has no recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals for this request. Should the board approve this petition, staff recommends it is done with the following condition: the approval letter and related documentation be recorded on the property with Hamilton County Recorder's Office. As a reminder, the board must determine that all of the above 8 criteria are met in order to approve this signage variance. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Members of the board, do we have any questions for the petitioner or for staff?
No.
I do have a question. I didn't see the Starbucks sign in the integrated sign that's there already. Is there any Starbucks sign along that corridor, or is it?
No, there's not. As Misty said, there isn't room in the current integrated center sign for Starbucks to be added. So there aren't any current Starbucks signs along 116th Street, just the signs that are on their building.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. If anyone is here from the public to speak to this, please raise your hand. If you're here to speak to the petition of Starbucks, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion or additional questions from members of our board.
Make a motion that we approve VA 2525 on the conditions that the approval letter and related documentation be recorded on the property of the Hamilton County's Recorder's Office, and all the criteria for the approval of the variance of signage is agreed upon.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I will second that. Secretary?
Mr. Grinslade,
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie,
No.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Lannon,
No.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes. Motion passes. Our next order of business is Crew Car Wash signage. The address is 11578 Allisonville Road, case VA-25-26. This is consideration of 3 development standards variances from section 6.17.6.E of the city's Unified Development Ordinance to allow a second ground sign on a non-residential lot with less than 250 feet of property frontage from section 6.17.5.I of the city's UDO to allow an electronic message board, and from section 6.17.9.C.3 of the city's UDO to allow wall-mounted drive aisle signs to be 6 square feet in size rather than 4 square feet. Our petitioner is Molly Peterson on behalf of Crew Car Wash. And you don't look like
I
Molly.
don't look like Molly.
Could you state your name, sir?
Yes, I can. Thank you, members of the board. Joe Calderon, attorney with offices at 11 South Meridian in Indianapolis. So Molly's with Signcraft, and oftentimes I work with Signcraft, and particularly with the Crew Car Wash account. So they have asked me to kind of step in and assist in the presentation this evening. Grace, do you have the slides that I sent? Can you pull those up?
Yes, if you hit the arrow, then they are all in order and should come up on the screen.
Up arrow, down arrow.
Side arrow. To the right. There you go.
Perfect, okay. So I'm gonna run through just a few slides. As you all know, Crew Car Wash has got a pretty good footprint in the city of Fishers. They've moved their headquarters here. They are in the midst of finishing up a new store at 116th and Allisonville, the former Jiffy Lube. And that should be open in pretty soon. One of the last things to come about as part of the permitting process is that their sign package, which they call a brand book, has gone through scrutiny, and there were a couple of signs that did not meet the letter of the UDO. So we have decided that those signs do have merit, and we hope that we can convince you of the same, even though that they require variances. So this parcel has been around a long time. It does not have direct access to Allisonville. So what we want to point out first and foremost is that what we're presenting to you tonight will not interfere with anybody walking or driving on Allisonville Road, which is the primary way that is on the east side of the parcel. As you also probably know, and we have other car washes in Fishers and in Hamilton County, there's a lot of change in that industry. There's a lot of choices that customers have to make in terms of, well, what kind of wash am I going to get? What kind of added services? Do I do this one time, or do I do it for a month? So you've all seen the evolution of the car wash business over time. It's not just pick one and put your 50 cents in and go the way it was many years ago. So what we're trying to do with the sign package at Crew is to essentially come up with a sign plan, and this is uniform throughout their locations, that will provide maximum efficiency for their customers. So as you can imagine, there are peak times when there's lots of cars in queue, and those cars, each driver has to make a decision as to what they want to do, and the sign program is all part of maximizing that efficiency to get the flow through the car wash, avoid the spill onto nearby streets, etc. And we think the sign package helps move that along. So this is a picture of an aerial kind of showing the footprint of the sign. The various letters indicate the sign locations. What's in play for us today is the EC04 sign, which you can see kind of on the east end of the building. And that is the second freestanding sign that staff has identified as part of the variance. Staff looks at this as a ground sign, and it is. It's ground mounted. However, it does not compete or duplicate the information on the traditional ground sign that is already existing from the old Jiffy Lube days, that is oriented on the corner of the property to Allisonville traffic. In fact, the digital menu sign, which is triggering 2 variances, is oriented to the west, 4 cars in the drive-through lane. In other words, if you're on Allisonville, you're not seeing this sign other than the structure. You're not seeing any of the copy on it. So we think, and we hope that you will agree, that that particular sign, and I'll show it to you in a moment, really functions the way a drive-through restaurant would in terms of a menu board. When you think about it, this is all drive-through business, cars queuing in line, they have to make decisions. It's just an opportunity for them to see what's available, how they place their order. This is a site plan that is in black and white that kind of shows you the queuing coming off of Fisher's Landing, entering in and queuing 3 rows moving to the east towards Allisonville. So the sight lines are such, and the signs that we're sharing with you tonight are all designed to attract the attention of those drivers that are already in queue, not people that are on Allisonville Road whatsoever. As you heard from the introduction, this is a 2-part or 3-part variance. The ground sign that I spoke about briefly is treated as a second ground sign without the requisite frontage. Our view is that this sign not being oriented to traffic on Allisonville should really be thought of, and we hope you agree, as kind of a drive-through menu board sign. This is the ground sign that is not part of the variance, but shows you what people on Allisonville Road would be seeing. It's just a replacement on the existing base from Jiffy Lube. Not in play from a variance, but this is the sign that is permitted and does not trigger a variance. It's important in context because the next slide that I show you will not be anything like this, nor will it be oriented to capture business from Allisonville Road, which is the main travel way. This is the sign that we're talking about. The specs of it are fine if you consider this to be the equivalent of a drive-through menu board sign. Same, meets the height requirement, meets the square footage requirement. This sign faces the cars that are already in queue, does not face Allisonville Boulevard. That the 3 panels there are digitized, so you can change the pricing, you can offer different promotions, etc. Will not blink, flash, and can be restricted. We can even, or you can even condition this sign as being approved subject to not facing Allisonville Road. The other signs that are in play tonight are what we call, or Signcraft calls, snap frame size signs. And these are kind of similar to what you might consider a preview menu. These are placed on the frames of the canopy when you're in the drive-through and you're driving up. And we are asking for a 2 square foot increase in size. Nothing more. These are not flashy signs. These are static signs. But again, they are just sized so that the information on them can be more easily read. It's kind of like going to the eye doctor and having to squint, or being able to see something clearly as you're going in. So this would be the exact sign. You can see that there are several bits of information. The smaller you make the sign, the more difficult it is to read. And again, it's just a matter of adding a couple square feet to make them more legible. It doesn't stick out beyond the frame of the canopy. It fits within, the canopy is taller, so it is not really discernible from a public standpoint, other than it's just easier to read. And that would be the smaller sign, square, the 4-foot square. So we're just asking for a little bit more size so that, again, it's easier to read for the customers coming into queue. And again, these are not facing Allisonville Road. These are just sitting on the drive-through canopy structure for customers that are getting ready to make their order. We understand where the staff is. They need to support the UDO. We're asking you as a board to understand where we're coming from, which is that the UDO actually allows for a digital board sign, as we're proposing, for, guess what? Drive-through restaurants. So distinguishing between a drive-through restaurant and a drive-through car wash, in our mind, is just not really legally distinguishable. You still are going to have cars and customers that need to make decisions. We're just trying to make it easier for them so that we can efficiently move them through the car wash. None of these signs will adversely affect the community. They're not designed to attract or distract from traffic on Allisonville Road. They're not in any clear sight triangle. And we think they meet the other criteria that you have for sign variances, but from a state statute standpoint, we don't think they hurt the community. We don't think they hurt the neighbors because they don't impact the use or visibility of any of our neighboring properties. This is strictly for customers that are already in the queue at Crew Car Wash. So, again, we really have two types of signs that trigger the three variances that you heard. The digital board sign triggers two variances, one being a second freestanding sign without the frontage, and two, having the digital element. So our position is that because that particular digital board sign is oriented to customers already in traffic, not to Allisonville, that it can and should be treated differently, much like your UDO does with a drive-through restaurant. And then the preview menu boards, it's a minor deviation in size. It fits right on the structure, just makes things more legible. It just helps the customer experience. It helps, we think, the community by allowing customers to move through more efficiently. Not aware of any objectors, but happy to answer any questions that the board may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll hear from members of the staff, and if we have questions, we'll bring
Absolutely.
you back, sir.
Thank you.
Grace Wiley, planner for the City of Fishers. Item before you today is a request for 3 development standards variance. The first is a variance from section 6.17.6.e of the city's UDO to allow a second ground sign on a non-residential lot with less than 250 feet of property frontage. The second is a variance from section 6.17.5.I of the UDO to allow an electronic message board. And the third is from section 6.17.9.c.3 of the UDO to allow wall-mounted drive aisle signs to be 6 square feet in size rather than 4 square feet. 11578 Allisonville Road is located south of 116th Street and west of Allisonville Road. The property is zoned C3 and is regulated by the city's Unified Development Ordinance. The surrounding area, as shown here, is zoned C3 and C2. Fisher's 2040 Comprehensive Plan designates this site as regional mixed use. The purpose of regional mixed use is to provide a community hub of commercial, residential, and institutional uses in a pedestrian-friendly environment. The proposed signage is shown here. The first proposed sign is shown here with proposed location indicated on the site plan. The sign is a proposed digital ground sign. The proposed sign area is 20 square feet, 6 feet tall. 2 of the variance requests are related to this sign. It will be located internally to the site. The site has an additional existing ground sign along Allisonville Road. Per the UDO, this is only allowed 1 ground sign. That is the first variance. Additionally, digital signage is prohibited in Fishers except in the case of drive-through restaurant menu boards. That is the second variance. The second sign is 4 proposed wall signs. They are proposed to be 6 square feet in area each. The UDO allows wall signs of this type to be up to 4 square feet. The signage shown here has been approved by city staff and is compliant with the standards laid out in the UDO. So this includes building signs, entrance sign, liability sign, and the ground sign along Allisonville Road. No public comments have been received. Staff recommends denial to the Board of Zoning Appeals for this request based on concerns that the signage will be a distraction to motorists and is not consistent with the UDO. Should the board approve this petition, staff recommends it is done with the following condition: the approval letter and related documentation be recorded on the property with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office. As a reminder, the board must determine that all of the above 8 criteria are met in order to approve this variance. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Members of the board, do we have questions for the petitioner or for staff? No. I have a question for the petitioner. Sir? You're asking for a variance from 3 development standards, which essentially is the second ground sign digitally, and then the increase from 4 to 6 feet on the pillars,
Correct.
correct?
Those pillar sides, yeah.
So this came as one petition, and my assumption is you want us to vote on each one of the aspects of your variance. So procedurally, Rodney, when we do this, is it 3 motions, or is it 1 motion on 1 petition? That's what I think, too.
Yeah,
But
I'm
that's your
fine with
choice.
that.
Okay. Now, I assume that we could do it in 2, because 1 is the second ground sign digitally. We couldn't just vote on digital signage without the second ground sign. Is that true? I have no problem doing it either way.
I don't know if it makes a difference, whether what I call the menu sign, if it's not digital, it's still a second ground sign. If you want, it doesn't matter to me if you combine them, but if you want to separate them, it might provide an opportunity to have something for those folks.
Understood. We'll do it as 3
in
separate
queue,
ones.
yeah.
Okay. And members of the staff, I have a question. In terms of restaurant menu signage, could you give us a primer on digital restaurant menu signage at a McDonald's, a Burger King, and Arby's? What's our existing rules there?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand your question.
Yeah,
Is your
so-
question just when is it allowed and when is it not?
Do we allow, I don't believe we allow digital signage for menu boards at restaurants.
Yes, we do.
We do? Okay.
Yes.
All right,
You do.
Quick service restaurants with drive-throughs.
very good. That's what I was asking about.
Yeah, and the size of them is up to 6 feet and 40 square feet. We're less than the square footage, so we're not asking for anything above what would be allowed for a drive-through restaurant.
And in terms of brightness, different times of day, I assume that's in our UDO?
Yes, we do have standards, so you could, if you were to approve the digital sign, you could add a condition that it has to comply with the UDO brightness standards.
We'd be comfortable with that. We'd also be comfortable, as I mentioned in the presentation, with the condition that that menu sign not be oriented to Allisonville Road. I know staff mentioned that they thought it was a distraction for motorists. Well, it's not a distraction for anybody on public ways at all. So if you want to add a condition to have that menu sign only face internally to the site, that would be fine as well, because that's our intent. It's not to advertise to anybody on Allisonville Road, hey, come on in for this special. It's to let folks know who are already in line, in queue, what their options are, and, you know, certainly sometimes what promotions might be.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Question for staff.
Tom, go ahead.
This is for staff, I'm sorry. You're recommending a denial for this. What is other than the 3 variances that we're talking about here that we're trying to get through, what is the underlying? Is it a public safety issue? Is it a traffic issue? Is it property value issue? What is it that would be the denial aspect on your side.
There's two, maybe three things. So we are concerned that the light from the electronic message board could be a distraction to motorists, even if it is not facing Allisonville in the dark. We also are concerned with the lack of compliance with the UDO. And then thirdly, there is a concern about sign fatigue along Allisonville Road. There's a significant amount of signage on Allisonville already that is a distraction to motorists, and so additional signage in the Allisonville area is something that we're concerned about.
So your main issue then was the distraction to traffic on Allisonville?
Yes, yes.
Obviously, if this isn't oriented to Allisonville, that takes some of that out of the equation. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Jeff, go ahead.
For staff. The reference to this sign with potential orientation to Allisonville was represented as item number 1 on your infograph?
The ground sign is item 1.
Item 1.
Yes, would you
Okay,
like me
thank
to
you.
go back to it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for staff too. So, I live at 116th and Allisonville in Sunwest. I know where that's going. Is the McDonald's sign just north of that, or I guess, yeah, just north of that a distraction, even though it doesn't face Allisonville? The signage that goes there when you're going into order?
I can't speak to that sign, but it is an existing sign, so it's not.
Also, being quick service food, it is allowed by right for McDonald's.
Okay, having no other questions from the board to petitioner or staff, I'm going to open the hearing to the public. If anyone is here from the public to speak to this petition, please raise your hand. Anyone here to speak to the petition of Crew Car Wash for additional signage? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion. And we have to take them, again, we'll take them one at a time. Do we have a motion for the first item, which is the second ground sign on a non-residential lot with less than 250 feet of property frontage with a voluntary condition that it be oriented not facing Allisonville Road? Is that correct, sir? Did I state that correctly? Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve what you just said,
Okay.
since it's not written down anywhere.
So the motion, correct me if I'm wrong, the motion is approval of a second ground sign on a non-residential lot with less than 250 feet of property frontage, provided that, or with the voluntary condition that the sign is not facing Allisonville Road. It's oriented to Fisher's Landing Drive rather than Allisonville Road.
I would only change the word voluntary to mandatory.
Okay. With the condition,
Correct.
with the condition that the ground sign not face Allisonville, be oriented to Fisher's Landing. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Or, Mr. Silvey, did you have a question or comment?
I do have a question about that. So oriented, but still visible from Allisonville? Or facing?
Sir?
What I meant by that is that the sign copy, the sign face would not be oriented to Allisonville. You could obviously see the back of the structure from it. But the sign face, where the copy is and the messages are, would not be oriented to Allisonville. They'd be facing west.
See the side of the sign.
The back of the ground sign?
So it's facing, the copy on the sign is facing west, if I have my
Correct.
orientation correct.
Exactly.
Not visible from
Correct.
Allisonville, even at an angle.
I don't think so, because it's, really meant to be square with
It's a
the
flat sign.
drivers and queue,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we may try that motion again. You want to try it again? So that we're clear? Because we want to be clear.
Okay. Make a motion that we approve VA 2526, let's see, development standards variance from the Unified Development Ordinance to allow for the second ground sign on non-residential lot less than 250 feet of property frontage, and to allow the electronic message board with conditions that the,
Okay,
did I get that right? No?
I'll make the, let me try.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, so the motion is approval of a second ground sign on a non-residential lot with less than 250 feet of property frontage, with the condition that the sign face be oriented to the west and not to Allisonville Road, so that motorists who are traveling either north or south on Allisonville Road doesn't see the
face of
digital copy, the face of the digital copy.
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion, a second.
Mr. Grinsley.
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, that aspect passes. The second request is that that signage, that second ground sign, allow for an electronic message board. Again, it will be oriented to the west, not to Allisonville Road. So we have, do we have a motion?
I'll make that, Greg,
No, go ahead.
I'll make that motion also, assuming the conditions that the staff has regarding the approval letter and the related documentation being recorded on the property with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office.
And if I may amend your motion that they comply with all lighting standards for electronic digital message boards as it exists under, for quick serve restaurants.
Yes, I'll accept that as a part of the motion.
Did you get that, Kay?
So Howard has made the motion, and my second comes from Greg?
Greg?
Sure.
Got it.
Okay. Sir, do you understand what we're looking?
Yes, we absolutely agree.
Okay. So we have a motion. We have a second. Secretary?
Okay. Mr. Grinsley.
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes. So that passes as well, sir.
May I interrupt real quick? Mr. Lanning and Mr. Grinsley, could you ensure that your mic is on? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So we have the third aspect of this, which is to allow a wall-mounted drive aisle signs to be 6 square feet in size rather than 4 square feet. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Sylvie moves that,
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve, yes.
yeah, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Secretary?
Mr. Grinsley.
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, that motion passes as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Before I move to the next public hearing, if anyone is here for the Verizon matter, we had a couple people enter just after 6 p.m. Those have been withdrawn. So if you're here for the telecommunications petition, we're not, we won't be entertaining that, so please feel free to leave. Seeing no one, and I'm glad for that, we're going to move to the next public hearing, public matter, which is BA-25-27. The petitioner is Christ the Savior, Columbarium Land Use. Address is 10500 East 126th Street. Consideration of a land use variance from section 5.1.5 of the city's UDO to allow a cemetery use in an R3 zoning district for the placement of a columbarium. Okay, this request is also being in conjunction with VA-25-28. Is it Mr. Bykite? Thank you, sir. Please step forward and proceed.
Good evening. Before Mr. Buckheit, I'm Pastor Brian Dare, a 10-year resident of Fishers, and during that time have served as lead pastor at Christ the Savior Lutheran Church. So thanks for hearing us tonight. We've also brought with us some of our leadership team. So Scott Dyke is our administrator who's done a lot of the front end work on everything to do with this, as well as Steve Moros, our current president of the congregation, and Mark Smith, who's leading the team to help us beautify the space at our property, part of which is the hope to have that columbarium. We've also been working closely with site architecture folks, Emily and Brad Smith, and thrilled for their skill. Christ the Savior has a 40-plus year of serving in our community, and we're excited about this beautification process as a means of continuing to invite folks to enjoy the property that we have at 126th Street. And I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Just a full disclosure, Kevin is a land use planner with my firm, Creek Vault, and so I'm stepping out as your counsel for these two matters, and Ms. Bennett will be counsel for the board.
Thank you, Rodney. Ms. Bennett, thank you.
I think this is my first time before you in this venue, so I may need some help with technology as we go here. My name is Kevin Buckheit, and as Rodney said, I am a land use planner by education and experience, working for the law firm Krieg Developed in their Carmel office. Here today to represent Christ the Savior Lutheran Church in these two applications that are before you. The property site is approximately 34-plus acres. The improvement area around the proposed columbaria, the memory garden area, is about 1.4 acres, and each of the columbaria structures are approximately 50 square feet in a footprint, just to give some perspective to all of this. This is located on the north side of East 126th Street, approximately 3,400 feet east of Cumberland Road, and the address is 10500 East 126th Street. This location has the church building and the surrounding grounds that include areas for recreation, the garden, and then the paved parking and drives. This location is surrounded by residential zoning and by residential land uses on all sides. There is another church generally directly across the street, and the only other zoning district that comes into play beyond R2, R3, R4, and PUD R would be the I-69 overlay, and that only extends to 126th Street, so does not affect this property. The request before you, the first one, and I'll do the combined presentation for you today, just to keep it moving forward. The church is proposing to add columbarium structures to the property. We'll have some graphics to share with you shortly. Columbarium is not listed in the UDO use table, but so we have to fall under cemetery. The definition for cemetery is land use for the burial of the dead and dedicated for cemetery purposes, including columbaria, crematorias, mausoleums, and mortuaries when they are operated in conjunction with and within the boundaries of the cemetery. The narrow focus of the request is not a cemetery under that definition, but the columbaria part of this, so we had to fall under cemetery for this request tonight. The Oxford Dictionary defines columbaria as a room or building with niches for funeral urns that hold cremated human remains for storage there. And again, the use variance is required because the cemetery is not permitted in the R3 district. No mortuary services will be provided on this site. The development standards variance then is to not require a perimeter wall or fence. The general regulations of the UDO require cemeteries to have a wall or a fence. Because this is very pinpoint request for columbaria structures that are interior to the overall site, going to be buffered by landscaping and the existing landscaping on the perimeter. We're requesting to not have to do the wall or fence in that area. The columbarium are architectural structures, and I'll show you those details shortly here. It's part of an area of the church property that they've identified for reflection. And it is separated from the nearby residential properties by over 200 feet to the property line, more to the individual homes themselves. Grace, how do I get to my slides?
If you just press the right arrow, then it should cycle through.
There we go. This is, I don't know that that caught everything that I had put into the slide. Let me describe this to you. The church has done some comprehensive planning for their property, and they've identified in activity bubbles within their 34 acres, areas for connection, for exploration, for gathering, for growing, and this is an area for reflection that is generally south and a little bit east of the church building itself on the property. As I mentioned, the columbarium structures are about 3 feet deep by about 13 feet wide between end caps and about 6 feet tall. There will be 2 of them. The niches themselves come in as a prefabricated unit, and they're 8-inch blocks that allow for the storage of the remains. The other graphic I had was just showing a cross-section that showed the support structure underneath the columbarium structures. The arrows that you see on the slide right now are indicating the locations of the 2 columbaria. They are very internal to the overall Memory Gardens area there. The labyrinth that is the red circle in the detailed red circle on this slide is already in the ground, and it's flush with the surface, but that's kind of an orientation point for some of the rest of these slides for you. Again, this slide shows, though, that the distance to the nearest improvement, which is a pathway to the property line, is about 105 feet. The distance to a feature wall that I will show you that's part of the Memory Garden area is about 238 feet, and the distance between the perimeter property line and the nearest point of the nearest columbaria is about 275 feet, or just short of a football field length. This is a view of the Memory Gardens area, very close up perspective of this. The yellow arrow is indicating where one of the columbaria is. In the foreground, or in the background, you see the feature wall, which is a curvilinear structure that rises from the left side to the right side. You see the human figures that have been put in there to help show what the perspective is of the overall design and scale here. And then in the very center, you've got the garden itself with the cross and the benches for sitting for reflection located throughout. This is from more of a perspective that would be in alignment with the church directly behind you, looking toward the circle, the center circle with the cross, the 2 columbari there indicated by the yellow arrows. All of this landscaping that is shown here is sketch landscaping to show you what can be done, what we intend to do on the site to beautify it and make a serene atmosphere for the reflection that is intended for the site. This is from the labyrinth looking toward, generally to the south, to the Memory Gardens area. Again, the 2 columbaria indicated by the yellow arrows. And again, the 2 columbaria, this is an elevated from somewhere between where the labyrinth would be off your left shoulder and the church off your right shoulder. And then this is a really elevated sketch here of the whole site, showing how the landscaping works, both the hardscape and the softscape, where the columbarias are located, the benches, the feature wall, and the center part of the Memory Gardens across. I'll leave that one up. I could spend a lot of time going through the findings of fact, but I believe you got those as part of the packet. I'm not going to do that. We believe that we've put forth pretty strong statements that favor that we do meet all the findings that are required by the state, and I ask that they be added into the record as if I had read them to you. We've got them both, the 5 findings for the use variance under VA 2527 and the 3 findings of fact under VA 2528 to not require the fence. For the recommended conditions, they're the same for both of the petitions that are before you. The first one is the approval letter and relative documentation be recorded in the recorder's office. That one is acceptable. The third condition, that the variance be tied to the place of worship, that's acceptable to us. The fourth condition is that the columbarium shall not expand from the footprint proposed in the variance application. While the design is close to final, it has not been finalized pending the outcome of this process, so we propose this alternative language for your consideration. The final design and location of the columbaria structures and the immediate ground improvements shall be substantially similar to the design and location presented in the variance application. That allows a little bit of wiggle room for the final design tweaks and any other concerns that might be raised here that we need to address. But we have presented what is intended, but the design, again, is not quite final. The second condition is that all landscape elements must be native species per the Fisher's Planting Guide. We do object to this condition, and let me explain why. Per the Fisher's Planting Guide, landscape elements for new development are not limited to native species. The guide does not require this limitation to native species only. City of Fishers Parks Advisory Committee is responsible for the creation and ongoing update of this guide. The guide was last revised and approved in 2021. As a standalone document, this guide represented city policy that had been vetted through a public process. At some point, the guide was incorporated into the UDO, Section 6.7.3 General Landscaping Standards, by an ordinance that was duly adopted by the City Council, and it made the policy into law. The guide includes, and I'm paraphrasing, general information regarding the desired native and non-native species, again, the desired native and non-native species, to enhance and promote biodiversity. The following statements all come from the guide. Creating diversity among plantings provides key environmental benefits. With a diverse number of plantings in a specific region, the diversity of the plants will help stabilize the ecosystem. Diversity of plantings is valuable because it balances the ecosystem, protects watersheds, mitigates erosion, moderates the climate, and provides a vast variety of shelter for animals. Diversity among plantings is important because it encourages more and even new wildlife into the region. This guide includes 19 pages of lists of approved native and non-native plant species for trees, shrubs, ornamental grasses, ground covers, and vines. Native species are not required, and non-native species can be used. This is all directly from the guide itself. The conclusion that I came to is that diversity among plantings, including its benefits, is the reason that non-native species are approved for planting in Fishers. The church simply wants the opportunity to design the site under the full allowances of the code. UDO section 6.7.3.E addresses invasive and poor characteristic species and states that while they shall be avoided and not counted toward plant requirements, some such species may be suitable in certain locations under certain conditions. So for all the good that is derived from the code and the policy guide, the language in both acknowledges that the list of species, both permitted and prohibited, may not be absolute. The church will avoid using invasive and poor characteristic plant species and those plants listed as unapproved species in the guide. The church will abide by the guide and the UDO. I don't know whether this policy has been revised since 2021 through a public process to prohibit non-native species, my analysis was done based on what I was able to find publicly and the link to the code that I got from the planning department. So we respectfully request that recommended condition number 2 not be included in any motion if you choose to support the variance request before you. I communicated with planning staff this afternoon regarding remonstrance. They had heard of, we knew of one who was supposed to file something, and then there was a second. One was in favor, the second one was not in favor, and I believe they're here tonight, so you'll hear from them directly. And with that, our request is that the board respectfully requests that the board approve VA 2527, VA 2528 as presented, based on the findings, and with staff recommended conditions 1 and 3 as presented, and 4 as modified. Thank you.
Staff?
Grace Wiley, planner with the City of Fishers. Items before you today are as follows. Consideration of a land use variance from section 5.1.5 of the city's UDO to allow cemetery use in an R3 zoning district for the placement of a columbarium. The second is consideration of a development standards variance from section 5.3.1.b.1 of the city's UDO to allow a columbarium structure to be constructed without a perimeter wall or fence. 10500 East 126th Street is located north of East 126th Street between Cumberland Road and Promise Road. The property is zoned R3 and regulated by the city's UDO. The surrounding area, as shown here, is zoned R3, R4, and PUDR residential. Fisher's 2040 Comprehensive Plan designates this site as suburban residential. Purpose of suburban residential is to include single-family residential at 2 to 4 dwelling units per acre. The proposed site plan is shown here. The petitioner wishes to build a columbarium for the storage of cremated human remains on the church property. The proposed columbarium will be located at least 105 feet from the nearest property line. The red dot on the lower right image shows where the columbarium will be located on the property. First variance is a request to allow a cemetery use, which columbaria are classified as. The second variance is to allow a cemetery, or columbaria in this instance, without a perimeter wall or fence. Shown here are elevations and renderings for the proposed columbarium. 3 public comments have been received. 2 were from the same person, so they've been compiled into 1. These were from Wendy Johnson of 12793 Turnham Drive. She expressed support for both variances. The second or third, the other public comment was from Sandra and Robert Bennett of 10603 Howe Road, who expressed opposition due to concerns about property value, potential future burials of non-cremated remains, and the health effects of living near human remains. Please note that this variance would not allow any burial nor storage of non-cremated remains. The location of the proposed columbarium is shown here by the red dot. Staff has no recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals for these requests. Should the board approve VA 2527 and/or VA 2528, staff recommends that it's done with the following conditions. The approval letter and related documentation be recorded on the property with Hamilton County Recorder's Office. All landscape elements must be native species per the Fisher's Planting Guide. Variance shall be tied to the use as a place of worship unless otherwise approved by the Department of Community and Economic Development. Columbarium shall not expand from the footprint proposed in the variance application. Staff does not have an issue with the proposed modification to point 4 that the petitioner mentioned. Substantially similar would be acceptable to us. And then 5th, which was not included in the staff report, but staff has added for the presentation, is that when the property ceases to be used as a place of worship, all remains should be removed from the property. staff is available for questions. Particularly happy to answer any questions on native plants, as those did come up in the petitioner's presentation.
Thank you. Members of the board, do we have questions for the petitioner or staff? I do have a question for the staff. 2527 talks about allowing cemetery use in an R3, and there's reference to the columbarium, but cemetery use to me also implies coffins and 6 feet down in the ground. So how do we enforce just a columbarium?
So the variance states that it is for the use of a columbarium. So then the variance would be restricted to only allow a columbarium, not all things associated with cemetery use.
So we're able to
If you wanted
restrict,
to add an additional condition to make extra sure of it, you could. But the intent is for a columbarium to be allowed. The intent is not for graves or anything of the sort to be allowed.
did you hear that, sir? Mr. Buck? Is there an objection or for that voluntary condition of it just being a columbarium and not for?
Not at all. That's our intention,
Okay.
regardless. And just to clarify, the fifth condition that made it on the screen but not in the report is acceptable.
Could you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, it's my voice. The fifth condition that was on the screen but not in the report is also acceptable.
Okay. Okay, that was number 5,
Yes.
I believe, on the approval list. Okay. Members of the board, any other questions for petitioner or staff?
I guess one question, I guess it's historical as a question. I think I recall us having a similar issue like this several years ago. It may have been by Heartland Church regarding a similar situation. Is that correct?
Yes, there was a petition for a columbarium at Heartland Church in 2021 that was approved.
Okay, thank you.
And just to repeat, I think you said that the staff does not have a problem with the Fisher's Planting Guide getting away from native plants. Is that right? Did I understand?
The staff does not have a problem with the change language regarding the condition for the footprint. Staff would like the native plants to remain
Okay.
as a condition.
Native plants. Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. If you're here to speak to this petition, please raise your hand. Okay, so we've got 2 folks. Ma'am, why don't you step forward, state your name and your address, and then we'll have other folks go. The only thing I ask is that, a couple things. First, your comments are limited to 3 minutes, and if you have heard something from the person before you, please let us know that you echo or reiterate what they had to say and give us new information rather than just repeat what the person said before you. Because we take each comment, we reflect on those and factor those into our decision making. There's no need for you to repeat the same thing for the person in front of you. So go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Sandra Bennett. I'm here, sorry, I'm nervous, I never do stuff like this. I'm here on behalf of myself and Robert Bennett. We live directly where we'll be in sight of visual of the
And your address,
remains.
please? Your address?
10603 Howe Road. We were the number 2, I think, up there.
Thank you.
So I'm on behalf of us as residents and also on behalf of Pleasant View Homeowners Association. I represent them here also. Our concern is that if we use this as a cemetery, because it is a cemetery, and as you stated, that makes you think burials. Could this open the door in the future? There is a large area at the church that could be something they want to go for in 5 years. And then we're living next door to a true cemetery, what we all think in regards to a cemetery. With that also makes us think of our house property values. You know, we all want a good average price for our house when we go to sell, and I don't want a buyer to walk away from my house because they can look out and see a cemetery in my backyard. I mean, that's just not something that I want, nor if I wanted to live by a cemetery, I would have bought by a cemetery. Those are just not things that we want in our yard to have to see.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. I think there was, please approach the podium, state your name and address, please.
My name is Becky McNichols, and I live at 11146 Stratford Drive. The park's at White River. And I would just encourage the zoning committee to support the native plant rule, because it's very critical for us to continue to start putting native plants everywhere, because we're overrun with invasive plants that are not good for wildlife, and they are not good for our community.
Thank you. Sir, please step forward.
Hi. I own the home at 12724 Howe Road, and looking at the map configuration for the placement of this columbarium, it's almost directly behind that home, okay? And I think I saw that there's supposed to be a 200-foot from the property line in. I didn't understand where the parking was going to be that was shown in the map, okay? Another question that I have, whenever you do have, and someone called it a cemetery, and basically it is, you have services at that cemetery when people are laid to rest. How is that going to be handled? Because sometimes there's a lot of noise, things going on that could not be good value of the home in that area. So I have a concern about that. The plant species, I would not want non-native plants, because it'll blow right into the yard if there are seeds. Don't need to deal with that. And my biggest concern, again, property values, as someone else has said, that it could negatively impact that area, especially where we're at, because we're right there. And I just don't think that's a good idea. And I also question the positioning of where this is. Why is it in that location and not further into the property where it wouldn't affect houses and their value?
Thank you. We'll have the petitioner, perhaps the pastor and the petitioner's attorney address some of your comments.
Yeah.
You had questions about parking. You had questions about services that take place at, and then finally you had questions about the location on the parcel. So,
yes,
Mr. Buckheit, would you like to step forward and address some of those things for us? Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public here to speak to this petition? I see a hand up from anyone else from the public.
Well, I'm not sure if I consider the public. I'm sorry, I'm part of the design team.
Ma'am. Anyone from the public who saw the official notice and is here as a result of the notice that was placed on the property? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, Mr. Buckheit? My intent here is to answer questions for your neighbors so they understand the project in totality.
Absolutely. The request on the use variance application is very narrow. We had to advertise under cemetery because that's where columbarium is included in the ordinance, but our request is only for columbaria and nothing else that's in the cemetery definition. There will be no mortuary services on this site for the burial or for the placement of the cremains. So if the church in 10 years or 15 years wanted to do more or something different, they would be right back here under the UDO to have this discussion again. Public hearing would be required, notice would be required, and this conversation would start anew for the proposed additions. That's not in the plans, though, but the opportunity to speak again, if it were to happen, is there. It's baked into the process. Can't really talk about home values because that would be all over the map. We have the required distances for cemetery structures from property lines. And frankly, once the entire Memory Gardens area is constructed and landscaped, The two columbarium structures are a very minor part of that, and they're going to blend into the overall atmosphere of the Memory Gardens. And anybody stopping by or having to glance that way is not really going to recognize those structures as a cemetery. That's my position on that. I'm going to skip ahead to the last speaker, talking about services. If you can talk about
Pastor?
Yeah, I would say that Lutherans aren't known for raucous funerals, so most of the time when we're talking about both the position of it and any service that would happen there, the reason that the position is within proximity to the church building is that there is the possibility that we would have a service inside the church building and then move and do the interment at that time. The only possible thing I could foresee that would be making noise would be if we had a military veteran who was getting honors, the 21-gun salute. I don't know what the rules are about that, but that's the only thing that that would possibly be of a noise level that could be problematic to our neighbors. I also just want to say I'm grateful that our neighbors are sharing their thoughts on this, and mention that really the overall plan for the property is to create a more park-like structure where it's an inviting space for folks to have a place to reflect, to pray, to simply dwell. And so, as with our community garden, which has been an amazing connection to our community, we look forward to these areas being able to explore for our neighbors and a place of reflection and repose. So, thank you.
Thank you. And finally, ma'am?
One other question. There was a question about parking associated with this project area, and there are a few spaces that are added off of the main drive into the church grounds itself, and that would be on the far side of any of the residences to the east. So it's just a few and farthest removed for this project area. Lastly, Emily will talk about the limitation on native plant species.
My name is Emily Smith. I'm a landscape architect with Site Architecture, and we've been working with Christ the Savior to develop these plans. This is not ours. Grace, how would I access some of those images we have?
Paul, are you able to bring the PowerPoint back? Give us just a second, and it'll come back.
I would like to speak to the kind of overlay requirement of having native-only species.
I appreciate that, and your colleague there spent 15 minutes talking about native plants and non-native plants, probably as long as the columbarium. So if you could just summarize for us what you want to say about native versus non-native, that would be helpful.
That's what I plan on doing.
Please.
Thank you. I am a landscape architect, and he's a planner. These are planners, so I'm actually the only person that can really talk about that in the room right now. What I want to say is that it's really been an honor for me to design a space like this, and the objective of the space is to have a place of beauty and reflection for the church members to come to. And with that brings a more intentional design, and when we're limited to native-only plants, it's much harder to do that because their blooms are less predictable. They are not part of the more, traditional nursery plants, which have been bred to be pest-free, low maintenance, low watering. They're just suited to be the best type of plant to care for with a low maintenance desire. Okay, is this what I have now? Sorry. I just wanted everyone to know that we have concerns about native plants going
Is there a
in
specific
here.
slide you'd like up? Is there a specific slide?
There's a plan, that since we'll be abiding by the district planting guide, we won't be using any invasive plants. So shouldn't be a concern of drifting into your property. understand that. And right now, just so you know, we're planning on this area being a pollinator garden. So this is probably about 75 to 100% native planting perennials and grasses. So that is what this is. This is more dedicated to our memorial space. So we would like predictability and more long-term beauty. And I suppose you guys are familiar with peony, with roses, with hydrangea, with daylilies, which I don't even think we have daylilies. But these are recognizable plants that you can assume, I know it'll bloom in this month or for this duration. Where native plants they do have their beauty in their place. This memorial garden is not it. I would also just like to mention, well, actually, forget what I was going to say. Do you guys have any questions about the native plant takes? Oh, I did want to know, what is your purpose for wanting only native plants?
Would the board like staff to answer that question? The
I
purpose of the
think we've
native
heard
plant
enough. I
condition?
think, unless you gentlemen have any more questions about non-native and native plants. I think we're,
Okay, I just wanted to mention down the road, Geist Christian, it has been somewhat of a campaign for people like me to try to educate the public that native plants are more than a weed patch. Because often when you do have just like maybe a native seed mix, that's interpreted by the public as a weed patch. It kind of takes a more educated eye, which I'm glad we have here, to understand the value. And I do understand the value of native plants and fishers. I'm just saying this a very specific area should not be required to only have native plants. Thank you.
thank you. Okay. So, we're at a point, folks, where if we have no more questions, we're prepared to entertain a motion from the board.
Can I ask a question to the public?
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, I have a question for you.
What?
Question off.
Everybody take a deep breath. We're going to be good. If you have a question, ma'am, approach the podium. Ma'am, you're done. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, you just said ma'am. Were you
Wait,
talking to me?
I didn't say anything to you.
Someone,
Well, if
No,
we
I
need
said
to,
I had a
we'll
question
call
for
you
her.
back up. We have a question for this
I
individual.
didn't
So,
say anything.
I guess the only question that we have is if this is a place to have people do memories and just a nice garden, why do we have to have human remains in it? Why can't we just have it a nice garden for people to come to? That's my only question.
I can ask one.
we'll take that as a comment.
Ma'am, I still have a question.
So we,
Earlier, when you first approached the podium, you said that you represented the HOA.
Yes, I'm part of the board for the HOA.
Do you have a letter to that effect? Do you have a vote from the HOA? Do you have anything else that says that besides you?
Just the board discussed it. I didn't realize I would need to bring a letter or anything.
Okay,
and
thank
to
you.
clarify, are you speaking on behalf of the entire board of the HOA?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we closed the public hearing for the second time, and now we're prepared to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we do not approve VA 25-28 and VA 25-27 due to the potential detrimental to property values in the area.
Second.
So we have a motion and we have a second.
Can we have comments before the vote?
Sure.
Yeah. Appreciate the motion. I would, we'll have the vote here in a second, but I would have voted yes in favor of the petitions. However, limited it to the narrow scope of the Columbine there as opposed to a actual burial, and also the recommendations of the staff, but just wanted to make those comments before we vote on that.
So we have a motion, we have a second to deny the petition. If I may have a point of procedure, why don't we take 27 first, because if 27 is denied, then 28 is moved.
Okay.
So why don't we go ahead and entertain a motion on VA-25-27.
7, okay.
Go Go ahead, sir.
Then I make a motion that we not approve V8-25-27 due potential land or property value issues.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Lanning, second. Okay, go ahead and call a roll.
Mr. Greenslade,
Yes.
Mrs. Two denied. Mr. Sylvie,
No.
Mr. Stevenson,
No.
okay. Mr. Lannon,
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
No, so that petition fails. So do we have another motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve VA-25-27 with the recommendations enunciated by the staff. It's not on the board anymore. Number one, that the approval letter and related documentation be recorded on the property with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office. Two, all landscape elements must be native species per the Fisher's Planning Guide. Three, variances shall be tied to use as a place of worship unless otherwise approved by the Department of Community and Economic Development. Four, the columbarium shall not expand from the footprint proposed in the variance application. And five, when the property ceases to be used as a place of worship, all remains shall be removed from the property.
So we have actually two motions, right? I'm sorry, two matters, VA-25-27. Let's take on one at a time.
Sure.
Okay? So that on 27, we're being asked to allow a cemetery use in R3. You had made a comment, Mr. Stevenson, about just being columbarium, not
Yes,
physical burial.
yeah, so I would want that to be a part of the motion, that I know they had to file it under the cemetery use, but I would want to focus on narrowing it to the columbarium use and no expansion of that use.
I believe the petitioner is in support of that. Thank you. Okay, so we have that as a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second.
Mr. Greenslade,
No.
Mr. Sylvie,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Lannon,
Nay.
and Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, so that motion passes. So now we have VA-28, 25-28. So, Mr. Stevenson, you had a motion.
Yeah, I have a motion for VA-25-28 as well, to motion to approve that petition as well, subject to the following conditions from the staff as enunciated 1 through 5.
You repeat.
Yeah, I'll repeat those. Number one,
Staff does not have a quibble with the petitioner's request to have .4 be developed or substantially similar. If you would like to alter what is in the presentation to allow the columbarium footprint to be substantially similar to what's been presented rather than exactly. Just a note before you give your conditions.
I can barely hear you, Grace. Are you saying the staff is okay with that?
Staff is okay with the footprint being substantially similar to what's presented, not identical. That would be relevant to .4 listed on the,
There was some discussion that the final design is not quite prepared and that the columbarium shall, as presented in the application, is substantially similar in design and location versus that it shall not expand from the footprint proposed.
Okay.
Did I say that correctly?
yes, so you can include what's written there, but the petitioner did request what Mr. Ferrucci said, and staff is fine with that change from what's written.
Thank you. I'll make that a part of the motion as well.
Secretary, did you catch that, or do you need us to repeat it?
I would.
We'll repeat it.
I would like to repeat them.
Howard?
Somehow, I don't know if I'll get it verbatim. Motion to approve VA-2528 with the staff recommendations, the approval letter and related documentation to be recorded on the property value with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office. All landscape elements must be native species per the Fisher's Planning Guide. Variance shall be tied to use as place of worship unless otherwise approved by the Department of Community and Economic Development. The columbarium shall be substantially similar as presented in their application from the petitioner. And then when the property ceases to be used as a place of worship, all remains shall be removed from the property. Did we succinctly summarize that, hopefully?
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I will second that motion.
All right, Mr. Grinslade,
No.
Mr. Sylvie,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Lanning,
Nay.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone for their patience and their input and their comments on this. So we'll move on. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Staff communication?
No.
Okay, I'm going to close this evening's Board of Zoning Appeals meeting.